Here's another case where I don't know where to start. Bonnie Raitt, gonna do it. Been listening to Bonnie Raitt over the past 20, 30 minutes. Some of her old tunes, trying to refresh my memory. Bonnie Raitt, she is a top 40 extra on this fancy playlist of July 30th. I dropped it, getting too excited. July 30th, 1989, Love Letter by Bonnie Raitt. I was not a big fan of Bonnie Raitt, but one of the reasons why I picked this top 40 extra is because she had loads of fans, loyal fans, mostly middle-aged people, particularly middle-aged women, but definitely not limited to that by any means. And the album Nick of Time. Boy, it was a long time coming. Big time commercial success for Bonnie Raitt. The album produced by Don Was of the group Was Not Was had that huge hit, Walk the Dinosaur, back in 1989. And Don Was producing Cosmic Thing, a big comeback album for the B-52s. 1989 was an amazing year for Don Was producing Nick of Time by Bonnie Raitt, and they worked well together. Worked very well together. Most of the songs recorded on Bonnie Raitt's Nick of Time was done in 2 or 3 takes. And producing Cosmic Thing by the B-52s, which yielded Rome and Love Shack. And, well, big year for Don Was, big year for Bonnie Raitt. The album, I forgot how big this album was. It did not yield a huge hit. There was Nick of Time, that went to number 92 or 91. And there was a thing called Love, written by John Hyatt, which was a heavy rotation record, if I remember correctly, on VH1 and MTV. And this is the thing about Bonnie Raitt. She got that adult contemporary side of her, and this thing called Love. Country, blues, rock and roll. She had it all. She had the package. The package was there. And Don Was just brought it out, making her a little bit more commercial, but not so commercial that it would alienate her diehard fans who remember the blues. When Bonnie Raitt got started, when she learned how to play the guitar when she was about 12 years old, she learned how to play the blues, and eventually she was playing early in her career. She was playing with bluesmen like Howlin' Wolf and Howlin' Wolf. Bear with me, Mississippi. Hang on, bear with me. Mississippi Fred McDowell. And there was another one. I wrote his name down, but she played the blues with these guys. Released her first album in 1971. The first album was self-titled. Her first her first Hot 100 record was she covered Runaway. She covered Dale Shannon's Runaway, and that went to number 57 on Billboard's Hot 100, 1977. She was backed up by the album was called Sweet Forgiveness, but I believe, yeah, it was Sweet Forgiveness, her sixth album. Michael McDonald backed her up on that record. And then the album after that, I think it was her seventh album, The Glow, in 1979. One of her best records, did not make top 40. And I just added it to my Spotify playlist recently. It was the song was called "You're Gonna Get What's Coming," a song that was done by Robert Palmer. She covered it. She covered it well. Just some good time rock and roll, just straight ahead rock and roll. Maybe a touch of blues in there. Doing it the way Bonnie Raitt could do it. And it only got as high as number 73 on Billboard's Hot 100. The album from whence that song came from was The Glow, produced by Peter Asher, formerly of Peter and Gordon. And I looked at the title listing on The Glow. She covers some R&B records. I Thank You, written by oh gosh, I can't remember his name. There was Isaac Hayes. I should have done better research on this record. I apologize. David Porter and Isaac Hayes, they wrote that record, I Thank You. Sam and Dave did it back in 1968. CC Top redid the song in 1980, and Bonnie Raitt, she redid that. She covered Bye Bye Baby by Mary Wells, originally done by Mary Wells back in 1960. One of the early Motown records by Mary Wells. That's the thing about Bonnie Raitt. She did some amazing covers of records. And but let's go ahead and push ahead to Nick of Time. 3 Grammys on Nick of Time. 3 Grammys. And she had some lows. She was dropped by her record label by Warner Brothers in 1983. And it got to where she just didn't have enough money to pay her backing band. She had to drop her band. and she fell into depression, had some alcohol issues. She did work with Prince. The Prince expressed interest in working with Bonnie Raitt, and they made some tracks, but nothing ever came of it. Then she hooked up with Don Was. And the chemistry clicked. They made a couple of children's albums, but there was a crisis. Well, here's the deal. She hooks up with Don Was, shops around for a new record label. 14 record labels turned her down. Late 80s. Turned Bonnie Raitt down. They didn't think, well, she completely shed her commercial mojo. She was done. 37, 38 years old. She was done. But Capitol Records signed her up. Nick of Time, 3 Grammys, including Album of the Year. Sold, here in the States alone, sold over 6 million copies. That is phenomenal. Now think about this. A lot of artists, whether they're in groups or solo, they're usually over the hill, usually past their commercial prime when they're 38, 39, 40. But here's Bonnie Raitt, 39, 40 years old. She's sitting on an album that is platinum 4, 5, 6 times over, 3 Grammys, and the album that came after that, it was called Draw. Bear with me, I'm going through my chicken scratch. Luck of the Draw. The album Luck of the Draw that came out in 1991. Something to talk about. That was her first top 10 hit off that album. Came out in 1991. Also produced by Don Was. That went to number 5. I Can't Make You Love Me went to number 18 on Billboard's Hot 100. Luck of the Draw, the album that came after Nick of Time, Luck of the Draw, sold 7 million copies. So here's a woman, late 80s, early 90s. She's 40, 39, 40, 41, 42 years old, and she's at her peak. I mean, she's, at least as far as the commercial peak. Her last top 40 hit that I remember, Love Sneaking Up on You. I remember that one. Spring of 1994. That went top 20 on Billboard's Hot 100. One other thing I want to mention real quick about the song Love Letter, which is the top 40 extra. Kind of a straight ahead. A little bit of sass in that record. A lot of confidence in that record. I'm going to just lay down the smack. Love Letter by Bonnie Raitt. It was written by a woman named, this song was written by a woman named Bonnie Hayes. Bonnie Hayes, she toured with Billy Idol for a couple of years. Cradle of Love, when he came out with Cradle of Love in 1990-91, she's toured with Huey Lewis and the News and with Belinda Carlisle. Bonnie Hayes, she wrote Have a Heart. She wrote that too on this album, Love Letter and Have a Heart. Now, I did a little research on Bonnie Hayes. She came out with a couple, I never heard of them, but she came out with a couple of cool records. One or two of them was featured on the Valley Girls soundtrack in 1983. One of them was called Girls Like Me, which had that new wave flavor to it. New wave, almost a girl group / new wave, Girls Like Me. And there was another one she did. I wrote it down. Shelly's Boyfriend. That was a pretty good. I love those. Well, I hate to use the word bubblegum, but it's just those new wave records back in the day. But anyway, she moved on in the songwriting, and she wrote Have a Heart, and she wrote this song, a top 40 extra on my fancy playlist. July 30th, 1989, Love Letter. But now I got to read you one thing. I got to read you a quote from Don Was. There was a crisis. There was kind of a, I don't want to say crisis of confidence. Let's just say that Bonnie Raitt's management seemed to have had some reservations about Don Was, the guy who produced this album, Nick of Time. And I'll read you a quote by Don Was. Let me see if I can bring that up for you real quick. Here it is. Quote unquote by Don Was, the guy who he produced Nick of Time by Bonnie Raitt, as well as that follow-up album of hers, Luck of the Draw. But anyway, here's a quote from Don Was. Her managers, Bonnie Raitt's managers, took me out to eat at one point and said, look, it's great that you want to work with her, but if it comes down to it and a record company comes along and insists that she have a real producer, we're going to throw you under the bus. That's an actual quote, but we're all friends now, quote unquote. That's Don Was, and that was when he was recalling a conversation he had with Bonnie Raitt's manager, boy. And he was just getting started, I guess, doing production. But boy, he hit it big in 1989. All right, enough said. Whew, boy, that was a mouthful. I think I'm becoming belatedly a Bonnie Raitt fan. Bonnie Raitt, Love Letter, Top 40 Extra on my fantasy playlist, July 30th, 1989.